Hello and welcome to day 198 of the Not Alone Today chronological Bible reading plan. Today we'll be reading Jeremiah 24 and Daniel chapter 1. We're still using the New Living Translation.
Jeremiah 24. After King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon exiled Jehoiachin, son of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, to Babylon, along with the officials of Judah and all the craftsmen and artisans, the Lord gave me this vision. I saw 2 baskets of figs placed in front of the Lord's temple in Jerusalem. One basket was filled with fresh ripe figs, while the other was filled with bad figs that were too rotten to eat.
Then the Lord said to me, "What do you see, Jeremiah?"
I replied, "Figs, some very good and some very bad, too rotten to eat."
Then the Lord gave me this message. This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. The good figs represent the exiles I sent from Judah to the land of the Babylonians. I will watch over and care for them, and I will bring them back here again. I will build them up and not tear them down. I will plant them and not uproot them. I will give them hearts that recognize me as the Lord. They will be my people, and I will be their God, for they will return to me wholeheartedly.
But the bad figs, the Lord said, represent King Zedekiah of Judah, his officials, all the people left in Jerusalem, and those who live in Egypt. I will treat them like bad figs, too rotten to eat. I will make them an object of horror and a symbol of evil to every nation on earth. They will be disgraced and mocked, taunted and cursed wherever I scatter them. And I will send war, famine, and disease until they are vanished from the land of Israel, which I gave to them and their ancestors.
Daniel chapter 1. During the 3rd year of King Jehoiakim's reign in Judah, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon came to Jerusalem and besieged it. The Lord gave him victory over King Jehoiakim of Judah and permitted him to take some of the sacred objects from the temple of God. So Nebuchadnezzar took them back to the land of Babylonia and placed them in the treasure house of his God.
Then the king ordered Ashpenaz, his chief of staff, to bring to the palace some of the young men of Judah's royal family and other noble families who had been brought to Babylon as captives. Select only strong, healthy, and good-looking young men, he said. Make sure they are well-versed in every branch of learning, are gifted with knowledge and good judgment, and are suited to serve in the royal palace. Train these young men in the language and literature of Babylon. The king assigned them a daily ration of food and wine from his own kitchens. They were to be trained for 3 years, and then they would enter the royal service.
Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah were 4 of the young men chosen, all from the tribe of Judah. The chief of staff renamed them with his Babylonian names. Daniel was called Belteshazzar, Hananiah was called Shadrach, Mishael was called Meshach, Azariah was called Abednego.
But Daniel was determined not to defile himself by eating the food and wine given to them by the king. He asked the chief of staff for permission not to eat these unacceptable foods. Now God had given the chief of staff both respect and affection for Daniel. But he responded, "I am afraid of my lord the king, who has ordered that you eat this food and wine. If you become pale and thin compared to the other youths your age, I am afraid the king will have me beheaded."
Daniel spoke with the attendants who had been appointed by the chief of staff to look after Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. "Please test us for 10 days on a diet of vegetables and water," Daniel said. "At the end of the 10 days, see how we look compared to the other young men who are eating the king's food. Then make your decision in light of what you see." The attendant agreed to Daniel's suggestion and tested them for 10 days.
At the end of the 10 days, Daniel and his 3 friends looked healthier and better nourished than the young men who had been eating the food assigned by the king. So after that, the attendant fed them only vegetables instead of the food and wine provided for the others.
God gave these 4 young men an unusual aptitude for understanding every aspect of literature and wisdom, and God gave Daniel the special ability to interpret the meanings of visions and dreams.
When the training period ordered by the king was completed, the chief of staff brought all the young men to King Nebuchadnezzar. The king talked with them, and no one impressed him as much as Daniel, Ananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. So they entered the royal service. Whenever the king consulted them in any matter requiring wisdom and balanced judgment, he found them 10 times more capable than any of the magicians and enchanters in his entire kingdom.
Daniel remained in the royal service until the first year of the reign of King Cyrus. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Just a quick recap on the 2 chapters we've read. In Jeremiah 24, we read that God showed Jeremiah a vision of good and bad figs and told him what the good fig meant and what the bad fig meant. And then in Daniel 1, we read about the people that were taken as captives into exile. And we read about these 4 men, Daniel, Ananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, who chose to follow God. And God gave them unusual aptitude and special abilities. And because of this, they entered into the royal service. So we're just going to go back to Jeremiah 24 to talk about what stood out to us, and then Daniel 1.
Thank you. In Jeremiah 24, again, it's important to note the first couple of verses for both chapters that we read, because they help us track where we are, and I want to continue to just keep ringing that so that we are not lost in the prophetic book, but also follow the narrative as it's going. So actually, Daniel and his friends were taken captive in the days of Jehoiakim, so that during that first invasion, as it were, when King Nebuchadnezzar defeated Pharaoh Necho in the Battle of Carchemish, and so they came over to Babylon. And then what we were saying just yesterday about a brain drain, we saw that that's exactly what is going on here in the prophecy of Jeremiah in chapter 24. God is saying the best of the best of the best of the people had gone. They are the good figs. Now, the ones that are left, including Zedekiah, that Nebuchadnezzar himself appointed, they are part of the bad figs. And indeed, there is still going to come another wave of captivity that would eventually still destroy them, as God had promised, as God had prophesied concerning the kingdom. So what stood out to me really is Daniel chapter 1, verse 9. Daniel 1:8 is very popular. It's more like a memory verse, and Daniel proposed in his heart not to defile himself and all that. But verse 9, I found it striking as we read it today, where it says, "Now God had given the chief of staff both respect and affection for Daniel." Like, this is a young man, alongside, of course, Ananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. They are young boys, but there is something about their demeanor, there is something about their attitude, their disposition, the way they carried themselves, that even the chief of staff already respected them. So much so that when they made this suggestion about the chief of staff flouting the orders of the king to honor their own decision to not desecrate themselves or defile themselves, he was able to give it some consideration. I thought that's just interesting. What stood out to you?
So what stood out to me was the vision of the good and bad figs. As I read it, it feels as though this vision was given to Jeremiah whilst he himself was still in Jerusalem. And if God is saying that the good figs represent the exiles is sent to the land of Babylon, that means the people remaining in Jerusalem are the bad figs. And likely plus Jeremiah if he remains in Jerusalem at the time of the vision. So then the question is, why is God saying that the exiles are the one he would restore, and the remnant or the one that he would tear down? But when I read it all together, and also with the commentary, the Nicot commentary, they said the point of the message is to get the remnant to understand that if they continue doing these wrong things they're doing, then the same fate will fall on them. but also to give them a hint of hope, because if the exiles are coming back and God is restoring them, that there's something to look forward to for the remnants, and they can start making preparation to turn their hearts in the hope of what is to come. And that's what stood out to me there.
Interesting.
And then in Daniel 1,
Yeah.
verse 17 stood out to me, where it says that God gave the young men unusual aptitude for understanding every aspect of literature and wisdom, and also gave Daniel the special ability to interpret the meanings of visions and dreams. I just turned that into prayer for my sons, for them to have unusual aptitude. It's not just for them, because the reason it stood out to me first is because the season we're in is end of the year, where they're giving awards, they're attending this event and that event. And in my head, I've been on cloud nine thinking, oh, this is really nice. But now I'm reading about unusual. So what I have seen is normal aptitude, normal ability, but for these young men to have unusual aptitude for understanding, not just for learning. This means that when they do read things, they get it. They get it beyond what is placed before them. And the special ability as well. This translation calls it special ability, and that's why it was instructive for me to turn into prayer. Yeah, that's what stood out to me basically.
Interesting. I found it interesting that Daniel, of course, we know Daniel wrote the book of Daniel, and so in referring to himself, he continued to use the Hebrew name Daniel. But in referring to his friends, as we're going to see as we go on, he began to refer to them indeed as the Babylonian name that they've been given, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. In fact, most people would know these three other friends as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego more than we would know them as Ananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, because that's how the book popularized their identity, especially when we get to chapter 3 in that interesting story of the fourth man in the fire. But yeah, we've crossed over to the book of Daniel. Jeremiah is still prophesying from Jerusalem to the remnants, waiting to see if they would learn. Of course, part of his prophecies previously is the fact that even when God continues to show them by what he's doing to others around them, they refuse to learn. And we're going to see how that plays out as the story continues. But join us tomorrow. We'll continue in the book of Daniel. But till then, just remember,
you're not alone
today.
God bless you.